Hey everybody, it's Nerdy30. Thank you for joining me for my first PC video of the channel, the $25 gaming PC. The inspiration for this video came from a coworker whose 9-year-old son had recently been given his grandmother's old desktop computer that consisted of a 2nd gen i5 4-core, 4-thread computer, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and some storage. The child had squirreled away $25 from his birthday money, and despite me offering to help him get into a better system, he wanted to take it upon himself to learn how to make the computer work for his needs. The child wanted to play a little bit of Fortnite, Roblox, possibly some Minecraft. This is the result of my research into the project, and I hope you enjoy. What you see here is a Dell Inspiron 620 that I picked up locally at a Goodwill for $30. I felt that this computer was pretty similar to something you might find on the curb, or maybe could even be given by a relative. As we can see with this 620, this has a 2nd gen i5 2320, came with 1 terabyte of storage on a 7200 RPM hard drive and 8 gigs of RAM. As you can see, it's a standard looking desktop computer. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how clean this particular PC was. As you can see towards the bottom of the case there's a little bit of dust, but nothing caked. Ignore the graphics card in this section of the video because it did not work. But the first $10 I spent was on this used PNY 120 gigabyte SSD. First thing I did with the computer was to dust it. I always recommend doing it outside because all the dust that's outside is dust you don't have to clean from inside your house. This air duster I have makes quick work of removing what little dust remained in the computer. And as you can see, there's not much dust. Here's a close-up of the exhaust fan and the CPU cooler. As you see, there's hardly any dust coming off of it. I was actually very surprised with that and very happy. Keeping your computers clean can help improve your temperatures, what can improve your overall performance. I always recommend removing any front panels if you can, or side panels or whatnot, to try to get as much dust out as possible. What you see here is how it looked when I removed it. The next thing that I do is take off the cooler and any fans, usually, to remove any dust that may be caked on to the back of the fan blades. This can be done relatively easily. As shown here, there's just 4 spring-loaded screws and a little 3 or 4 pin connector on the motherboard. It's usually labeled CPU fan. So once all 4 posts are removed, gently lift out. You'll see how it popped up. That was the spring on the screw losing tension, and it popped itself up. Just be careful when you remove it. You don't want to damage anything. Just pull it straight up. Sometimes thermal paste can get stuck to the processor, and it takes a little bit of wiggling to get it off. This is my personal method that I use for removing any type of dust buildup from CPU coolers or fans or radiators. I use something like this Lysol spray here, which works great. I put a little bit extra on it than it needs. So as it runs down, you'll see in a moment that all the dust collects underneath on the paper towels. You see the imprint of the fan. And I've found that this really prevents me having to scrub much, if any at all. So I do both sides, let it dry 10-15 minutes. Usually I'll spray a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on it to help any residue that may be left from the cleaner. As you see in the top right corner, there is my isopropyl. Notice the imprint of the dust on the paper towel below that fan, but I think it looks great, nice and clean. Once again, keeping temperatures under control helps get some of the best performance you can out of your system. Now here's where we hit the first snag, where I mentioned the graphics card didn't work. For some reason, this particular computer was very, very selective of the graphics card that worked in it. So you can see I got no video out. I tried several different graphics cards in this system, and I finally found one that worked. That first graphics card was an R7 354 gigabyte. I was really excited about. I got it for 15 bucks. Fortunately, that didn't work. As you can see here, we had to look for other options. Luckily, I found a 1 gigabyte HD 6670 that you could pick up on eBay pretty easily for $15, which is a 1 gigabyte GDR5 card. First game tested was Fortnite. Here are the settings that I used on the map. Now, please forgive me, I am not a Fortnite expert by any means. I actually don't play that much PC gaming when it comes to shooters. So what you see me playing is what you get. I'm still learning this process of recording and shooting. So eventually the plan is to screen record or to set up a capture card. But as we were sitting here, I had a driver issue with the 6670 on the pre-recommended mode, so I dropped to performance mode. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but the FPS counter when I was in the match in non-busy areas was anywhere between 80 to 100 FPS, and when I moved into heavier areas where I was engaging targets, I was above 70 to 90. I was actually very happy. I didn't notice very much stuttering at all. Setting at this resolution, I believe, was 720p. I'm sorry, you'll have to refer to the footage for that. But I was actually very impressed with this. My test monitor here is a 900p monitor. Typically, I tend to build lower end systems, so I usually shoot for that lower resolution because the budget systems tend to be more desirable in the area that I live. So once again, not a Fortnite player. This was no build mode, so it takes a few minutes for me to kind of run around and figure out what's going on. But as you can see, it doesn't look too bad. It played real well. I actually believe this was at 900p in performance mode, but I was actually pleasantly surprised. If I was playing, I actually started to enjoy playing this a little bit, but I had more testing to do. So I'm not sure if this is a bot or if this is a player. My son is like, oh, there's bots and players and bots, and not really sure how to tell the difference between them. I believe this may have been a bot though, just because the movements were kind of generic, but so far so good. I was very happy with the performance I'm seeing out of this so far. We'll play probably another, minute of the game or so. I caught a lot more footage than what was in the video, but this is my first time editing a long video like this, so please, if there's any tips or pointers or anything that you have, please leave feedback in the comments. I read all the comments, good, bad. If you like the video, thumbs up. You don't like it, thumbs down. Leave me a reason why, something I can improve on. If you like the content, please subscribe. This, I believe, was a player. He seemed to, he seemed more engaging than that other first bot was. So as you can see, all the settings are set to low with long view distance. This is my first time ever playing Valorant, which I do apologize. I do think I forgot to get the settings on this, but I played this on, I believe that it had the recommended settings that it configured to the system, and I was getting 100, I believe the counter on this one was 120 to 140 FPS. It seems very playable to me. What you're seeing me die is because, as I said earlier, I am terrible at first-person shooter games. I don't really enjoy them that much, but it's a pretty easy to run game. It's a popular game, so it came into the benchmark. As my channel grows and as I put more time and resources into my channel, I plan on expanding my benchmark list. These were just some of the first games that came to mind when doing some research as to what's pretty popular, especially since this is a low-end system. I use a website, mysystemlabrequirements.com, and I use the Steam ranking list to determine what games will go on my benchmark list due to popularity. And System Lab Requirements is great because it'll run your hardware and compare it to minimum and recommended specs for a game and tell you if the system will play it or not. Most of the time it's a pretty good rule of thumb, but sometimes, if you don't quite make it, you can adjust settings and get a playable experience. And with that, Death, I'm done with Valorant. Here are my settings I used for GTA 5. I believe I was using, this was 720p DirectX 11, and I'm sorry I couldn't figure out the FPS counter on this, and with it being such a low-end system, I didn't want to run an overlay to take up any system resources. I wanted to put all the system resources available into the system playing games, so until I get more established with that, some games, if they have built-in benchmarks, I will try to use them, or if I have FPS counters in the game, I will get them up. This one at 720p, there was a little bit of stuttering every once in a while. It looked like a wave that came across the screen, but was actually really playable. This was actually my second time playing GTA 5, so it's been a long time since I played it. I played it once through a couple years ago when it was free on Epic. This footage here, I changed the settings to DirectX 10, I believe, and was at 900p. And kind of the changing to DirectX 10, I think that was more in the range of what this graphics card could do, and the system seemed to perform better. I didn't notice any of those wavy tears that would come up, randomly throughout the benchmark. Overall, I was actually very impressed with the system. Do I recommend you go out and buy this system to put $25 into to get to gaming? I always say you have to do what's best for you. The first thing that I think is super important for anybody trying to get into PC gaming is that you have to set your expectations. A $300 computer is not going to play 4K at max FPS. You don't need a $1,000 computer to play Fortnite either. So, the first thing that I always say is, measure your expectations, figure out what you're going to want to do, and, make a plan to get there. Now, for the $30 that I picked up this computer, we're not factoring that into this scenario. Could you have gotten maybe an Xbox 360 or so to play, and maybe some Minecraft and whatnot? Yes, you could have, but one thing that I enjoy with PC gaming is that once you own these games, you own them. So if this $25 PC works for this situation, and then in a year or two you build a better PC, you still have your games. You don't have to purchase them again because you went from a 360 to a computer. So something to keep in mind. Overall, I was very impressed with this computer. I really, really think that it's going to work. This situation worked. For this particular scenario. My next video, I'm going to be trying to shoot at the $50 price point. I'm going to do this up to $100. We're going to see what we can do. So overall, recap, I really was happy with the performance I got from the system, and I really, really think that it's not a bad option if this is all you have. If you like the video, please subscribe and hit the like button. Leave a comment. I'm Nerdy30, and I'm signing out.